Today on Grand Thumb, the guns of Black Ops 6 in real life. Can I slide backwards after sprinting forwards? Today on Grand Thumb, I think a lot of us got our start with firearms because of media. And now so, more than ever, we're getting our start because of video games. Now, today's video is a little bit more what you'd call normie. And that's okay, because as much as we have fun doing intense gun content, ballistic testing, we also like to show some of our less firearm educated individuals what is interesting about guns. Today we're going to be going over the actual weapons from Black Ops 6, talking about them, how they function, how they look, and are they actually real? Now, my name is Michael Jones. I'm a former Air Force Special Warfare member. I was a TAC-P. Right here we have John.
Hey, how's it going? I'm John. I was a Ranger, and now I'm here.
Thank you, John. But before we get into that, we of course have to thank the biggest sponsor of the channel, who is Primary Arms. If you're looking to buy optics that are probably made in the mountains right over there, go ahead and check them out. They have all the coolest optics and literally everything you could possibly want. Now, this month is actually Skittles November. They have a huge surplus because of Halloween, so make sure you ask for Skittles, and you never know. Maybe you'll get lucky. We don't know until you ask. So again, a big thank you to Primary Arms. And of course, we cannot forget Night Vision Network. If you're looking to buy night vision, if you're looking to buy thermals, you can rent, you can buy, because the most important thing is to visualize men in high fidelity at night. With the most clarity possible. This is probably important to some of you. This will help you do it a little bit better. Night Vision Network, a big thanks to them. Now, if you want to get better at shooting, we don't recommend playing video games. You actually have to get out there and train. And we recommend dry fire. Mantis is going to turn your weapon into a dry fire machine. It makes dry fire fun, and we highly recommend them. We cannot say enough good things about using the Mantis system to make you just a better shooter, so go and check them out. Now, here's the thing. Call of Duty is a fun game. Is it going to be a realistic portrayal of firearms? Of course it's not. Now, that being said, despite how unrealistic GoldenEye was, I learned a lot about guns from that game. So today we have a lot of the guns that you do see in Black Ops 6. There will be a lot of differences in terms of how they function, how effective they are, because obviously a game has to be fun. But you know what's also fun? Real guns. So right here we have a smattering of a lot of the different guns you can probably recognize from the game. We're gonna be going through all of them individually, talking about what makes them interesting, comparing them to the game, shooting them. How do they sound? How do they function? How close is Black Ops 6 to the real thing? All fun stuff to learn. Let's get into it. Now, first thing we want to talk about is the most basic weapon of the game, and perhaps actually one of the best weapons of the game. We have the, hey, thank you, Jeremy.
Yes, sir.
Did you get your start in guns from games?
Yeah, that's definitely the case, especially when it comes to like different situations, whether it's close combat, long distance. You're going to have a little bit more information from those video games than you get from the movies, more explanation.
That was a great autistic answer. Thank you very much,
yeah.
Jason. In real life, this would be known as your M4 variant, as your XM4, or perhaps even Colt 723. This is an exact reproduction of a weapon that would have served during the 90s, which is precisely when Black Ops 6 took place. Now, as you can see from our in-game footage, we're able to get it quite close. And in fact, a lot of the parts that you see in-game are modeled after many of the real-life counterparts that you see here, whether it be from the Car 15 stock to the optic, which is an Aimpoint 5000, even to the laser devices that they use in the game. We have a AIM-1D, which is one of the early lasers used. They definitely pulled inspiration from a lot of historical contexts, but many liberties were taken. With all of that being said, let's get on the range. Let's shoot this a little. Let's see how it looks. Now, in real life, this is not called the XM4. This would be a Car 15, an M4, a Colt 723. But, because of the current political spectrum that we're on, and it's definitely on a spectrum, The game devs aren't able to put a lot of the real names of guns because if those guns were used in some type of violence, then people could blame it and say, oh, I played video games, now I'm violent, which is about the dumbest thing ever. We should be responsible for our own actions. So thank you to just absolutely retarded political stuff that we have to deal with that. Let's go and take a look at this. So the XM4, the Colt right here, fires 5.56, one of the most ubiquitous rounds used, and it's still used by the United States military. It is fed from a box magazine of 30 rounds. Obviously, in-game, you can get extended mags, and those are real. You can get drum mags, and those are real. Are they actually used? John?
Yeah, here and there.
There you have it. So it's not abnormal to see extended magazines, whether they be 40 rounders or extended base plates, to add some capacity to magazines. That right there from the game is real. We do have a suppressor on here. The suppressor in-game does differ, but let's go ahead and let's shoot a little. Go ahead and load that up. I'm gonna take our first couple shots here. So, as you can see, these guns are super, super quiet when they are suppressed. And you can see the teeny little holes that these guns make. The rounds traveling extremely fast, it's extremely violent, and these are proven weapons as far as being used in theaters of war. Now, what we're gonna do here, we're gonna see how fast we can run this guy. Unfortunately on YouTube, we cannot show full auto, so that's a little something that you're not gonna see from your video game to real life. Now, with all that being said, most of our shooting in the military is done how?
It's usually semi-auto. You just want accurate shots, you know.
So that's something that you're not so much seeing in Call of Duty, but again, you gotta have fun. And we do play a lot of Black Ops 6, don't we, John?
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun.
We're not good at it.
No. This was used by guys a lot cooler than me and you in the 90s. Delta dudes.
It is a vibe, as the kids would say. All right, John, shooter, are you ready? Stand by. Up! Pretty good, pretty good.
I had a little trigger freeze there.
Yeah, you're good. All right, let's see me run this. Ready, Mike? There we go. All right, let's go and let's take a look at how the reloads look in game. Depending on how we're reloading in game, there are two types of reloads, one from you're completely empty and one where you're just topping off. If we are topping off, how the guys are doing it in game is they're going ahead and they're pulling out a full mag, they're pulling out the partial, inserting the full, and they're reinserting the old one. This is an actual technique. From bolt lock, there are a couple different things that they do, but generally what you're seeing, so if we fire that last round on an M4 variant, what we get, you get bolt lock, bolts locked to the rear. So all you need to do at that point is hit the bolt release. So what that's gonna look like is you're gonna drop that magazine, rip it out, hit that bolt release, just like in the game. Now, there are a lot of different attachments you can put on the XM4. Now, in the game, they actually do have a few that are correct or actual things that you see in real life. In this case, we have one of the early handguards used by Joint Special Operations Command. So I'll be showing you what that looks like. We also have it with a PEC-2, which is a laser that you can use in the game, as well as one of the early Seymour dot sights, which is reminiscent of some of the open dot sights, which are, as we would say, goated in the sauce, pretty good in the game. All right, that one works great. Let's go ahead and take a look at my favorite variant of the M4 and also in the game, the M203 variant. The M16 with the M203. My favorite part about Call of Duty is that there are, of course, meta builds. You can build a gun that's going to be good for the game, or you can build a gun because you're super autistic like me and just like a certain build. That's what I love about Call of Duty is with the correct attachments, with the M203, the high explosive or one of the grenade launchers, you get this classic iconic handguard, and you can, with the correct stock, make literally the M16A2 with an M203, and that is just tickles me something. Okay, we're gonna go with that. I'm gonna start shooting because I'm feeling awkward right now. And actually in real life, this is actually one of the softest shooting rifles. It's because with this long barrel, you have a very long gas system. You have a lot of time for that gas to travel, and then you have a long receiver extension. That buffer gets to move quite a bit that allows it to kill most of the recoil. And you're gonna see that, what it looks like in real life. Super easy to control. One of my favorite rifles. Just very cool. And again, this is something you can own. You can own an M203. You can own these guns right here. Now on the M203s, there's probably gonna be a question of, is it pretty realistic? Absolutely, with the exception of the arming distance of a grenade. It's gonna be about 25 to 50 feet depending on the grenade. But just like a real M203 in the game, release, load the round in, and then you have your actuator right there. Very cool, and something you can get in real life. Now right here we have a gun actually called by its real name. We have the AK-74. This is a real designation for a rifle. It is not quite all the way correct, but it's getting pretty dang close. So the AK-74 was an offshoot of the AKM or the AK-47. It fires a 5.45 by 39. And a couple things to note here is you notice that from the factory, your military AK-74s had a very aggressive muzzle brake. They also run a little bit slower as far as their fire rate compared to an M4. So actually in game, I think one of the most accurate depictions is the XM4 versus the AK-74. The fire rates between those two is fairly realistic. Now, that's not something we can show on YouTube because of full auto, but what you can see, the amount of recoil and travel that the AK-74 has, along with this muzzle brake, makes it a very controllable weapon system. And I think they do a pretty good job of simulating what it's like to fire an AK, from the mechanical action to everything. So let's see what that sounds like and what that looks like when it fires. All right, let's go. Let's get another mag. Now, loading on an AK, you have that front little lip right here. It's actually a little bit more difficult of a reload compared to the M4. Requires a little bit more skill to get it down well. So your operator in Call of Duty is actually doing a pretty good job. Once you have that magazine in, just your standard, running that charging handle. Typically, most people are trained to reach under. You do see some people reach over, but the reload in Call of Duty, they did a great job. Let's go ahead and do a transition. We'll do 2 rounds per target. Just a very, very pleasant weapon to fire. We'll go ahead and we'll let you guys see right down the weapon as we're firing right here. Right here we have literally the most broken, as it stands, the best gun in game. We have the Model L, which in real life is the Set-Me L. This is a Spanish rifle. It was one of the first roller delayed systems, so very interesting. If we come in and we take a closer look at this, compared to most rifles that have a gas system, which means somewhere near the end of the barrel, they will tap off a little bit of gas in order to cycle the weapon. These weapons are roller delayed. They do not use that. They use a combination of a shoulder with an angle to resist the recoil as the round is pushed back from the expanding gases, as well as some rollers, depending on how far they're inset, to resist that recoil. It's a very interesting mechanism. It's used on many weapons like the MP5 and G3. But it makes for a very interesting recoil impulse. Now, unfortunately, this particular weapon is made by Markelmar, and it functions, what's the word? Suboptimal. Suboptimal, is that correct? Safeties on these really suck. Reaching them when you're actually like shouldering the weapon is not fun. And if we notice too, we do have, what is this, the Marlin from the game? Is that correct?
My PC's not good enough, dude. I don't have Black Ops 6.
Just shake yes or no. Marlin? Okay, so hitting that safety off, let's go ahead, let's run it. It is such a weird recoil impulse compared to like the M4 or the AK. Due to the operation, the roller delayed system, it's smooth, it's slow, but it is very controllable. Here, hit me with the other mag. Now in game, this is the best gun. However, look at that mag well right there. So you can see it's just stamped sheet metal. Because of that, when you're trying to do your reload, like your amount of space you have to get that magazine directly in sucks. So your reloads on this guy, you got to be pretty dialed in, because if you're just barely off, you're not going to seat that magazine correctly. In addition to that, there is no bolt hold open. That means on the last round, your bolt is just forward. Now there's no bolt hold open. That means once you're out, you're going to get a click. You're going to put in your fresh mag, make sure that's seated, reach up to the charging handle, charge it, then you're good to go. We'll go ahead and we'll run a 3 and 3. So we'll do 3 shots per target. We'll transition in here. Pretty easily and controllable. It is 5.56. That being said, this gun being the best gun in game just doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel right at all. John, come shoot this. Let me know what you think. Okay, John, I don't think you've ever fired a Set-Me Model L.
Never.
Okay, good luck. Okay, what does the Ranger think?
I mean, it is a very smooth recoil impulse, but it doesn't have quite like the quality of life as something like an AR
Would you say best gun in real life?
Absolutely not, but in the game, yeah.
Well, there you have it. Looks like disappointed once again. Never meet your heroes. Now, this video is sponsored by Barbell Apparel. You know, they say that the things that love us end up destroying us. That's true of working out because nothing fits right. Now, right here, what we have is we have a 4-way stretch flannel that isn't just your normal flannel. This is made for athletic men. Broad shoulders, big arms, super comfortable. When a girl puts her face up against it, she's gonna fall right in love with you. Now here in Grand Thumb, we've been a big fan of Barbell Apparel for a long time because, well, their clothing is awesome. And the flannel is no different. We are super excited to be talking about their flannel, and we hope you guys will take a look at it because this is something I've been wearing every single day. Go ahead and check out Barbell Apparel. Check out their new line of t-shirts as well as their pants. We wear everything that they make because we believe in it. Now, let's go ahead, let's get back to the video. Don't forget to check out the link right below, direct to Barbell Apparel. This is, if you don't already know, the AR-18, one of the most famous rifles. And the reason for that is it wasn't particularly commercially successful. However, almost every military weapon that is not M4 or AK base uses this operating system or a derivative that came from this principle, which is a short stroke gas piston. This is very well made. This one, compared to a lot of the modern weapons, does kind of look clunky. It's stamped, it was quick to make, but these are awesome weapons. In game, I use it a lot, even though I know it's like the most middest of mid rifles ever. But I just love the aesthetics of the AR-180. Now, a lot of people will look at it and believe that it uses your standard AR-15 magazines, your standard what we'd call Stenag mags, which are magazines that are made for the M4 platform or others. But it actually does not. It actually has its own pattern because it had to be different. So you actually have to get specific magazines for the AR-180. You can convert them, but it's a bit of a pain. So let's go ahead, let's shoot this a little bit, and let's see how it does. We're gonna go ahead and hit it with a good old 3 and 3. Feels good. So, compared to a lot of the rifles that we've shot, the AR-18 is a very snappy recoil. It's not the most pleasant to shoot, and maybe that kind of matches up to the real life counterpart where it's not the best weapon. But all the weapons that you know and love, the G36, the SCAR, the MCX, use a derivative of this operating system or a direct copy of this operating system in order to function. So one thing you can note when it fires, you can see this charging handle is really moving. So go ahead and take a close look at that when it's firing. It's pretty interesting. And when we get to the end of the magazine, we actually do get bolt lock on this guy. Usually we do. It's from the 60s, let's give it a break. Once you have it from bolt lock, just like in game, once you insert your fresh mag, you're gonna reach under and just release that. There is no bolt release or anything like that. The reload as shown in the game is correct. And in fact, many of these guns came with straight 40 round magazines. So that extended mag in the game, not really too far off besides being 45 rounds. That's all, we'll show you guys what's going on. Nice. Let's come take a look. I'll show you guys what we're talking about. This is an old gun. It's been shot a lot. So what we're seeing is keyholing. What that means is as the slug is traveling, it's no longer traveling straight. There's not enough rifling in the barrel, so it's tumbling. So we have these perfect bullet-shaped holes in the target. That's what happens when you get a gun that's shot out. But, you know, it's served its purpose. It's been around for a while, right, John? Now, there are obviously a lot of assault rifles that we couldn't show, whether it be the L85, which is very rare and hard to get a hold of, whether it be the EM2, which is another variant that we just don't have, or the AS-Val. Funny enough, the actual name of that weapon. Those are they just don't exist in the United States, although we've shot some variants of them. But we're gonna move over to marksman's rifles. We have here what's called the SWAT 5.56. In real life, this would either be a PE90, because that is the Swiss service rifle, which is what this is, or it would be the SIG 5.50. This is a 5.56 rifle, and this is perhaps the weirdest choice as a quote-unquote marksman's rifle because it is 5.56. It's not going to be any more powerful than your typical assault rifles that we've already shown. But let's go ahead, let's talk about it a little bit. These are known as the AKs made by Swiss gods. They are the Rolex watches of the AK world. They're very similar in some aspects to an AK-74, to an AKM, but they're made with extreme precision. They're known to be extremely accurate. So in that sense, it wasn't such a bad choice to make it a marksman's rifle. But with all that being said, talk is cheap. Ammunition sponsored by AC. So it's a 3-round burst in game. I'll do a quick 3 rounds here. It does have very nice recoil. This is a extremely well-made weapon. We're gonna do a couple more shots here. We'll do 3 on these 2 outside targets, trying to simulate that 3-round burst. By the way, even the military rifle, it was safe, semi-automatic. There was never a 3-round burst on these guys. That's pretty good. Did you see that? It's all easy. That means I did well. So I feel good about that. Now, on the last round, we do have bolt hold open, which you'll see right here. So from there, all you're gonna do is going to eject your old mag. The new mag's gonna go in, and on these, you do have a bolt release right here. It's actually a very fast reload with these guys. And it's, as you can see, very AK-like. You have this lip at the front here that locks in, and then it clicks right into place. This is a very good magazine method, specifically for cold environments. It's why you see it on a lot of AKs, why it's so ubiquitous in that region, and of course, in Swiss territories, why it's so ubiquitous there. So, one of my favorite guns as well, the PE90. Cool to see in game, kind of useless in game. Nonetheless, it is in game. I feel like this gun needs virtually no introduction. The MP5 is one of the most popular firearms. It's in like literally every game, from my favorite game of Half-Life to Counter-Strike to, of course, Call of Duty. Now, very oddly, in game, they have made the most odd aesthetic design choices on the MP5 that they have in game. They have it with very odd handguards that were never really used. It's like a weird amalgamation of a SETME, like a Model L and an MP5. But we've gotten as close as we can with what they have in game, which is a light bearing forend on this MP5 to match up with some of the barrel options that you can have in game. With all that being said, the MP5 is probably one of the most widely known submachine guns, and it has been used in conflicts all throughout time and history. Because of any submachine gun, it is one of the lightest recoiling weapons you will ever fire. It fires a 9mm from a 30-round magazine, and the recoil is insane. It is a roller delayed weapon made by the Germans, but it is exceptionally well made. We'll go ahead and take a look at that recoil right now. Just does not move at all. If you take a look here, you can see that despite having much larger holes compared to 5.56, it is significantly less powerful. This is due to the shape of the bullet and the speed of the bullet, which is about 1,100 feet per second compared to the 3,100 feet per second that you get from 5.56. So don't let the appearance of a larger round fool you into believing this is a more deadly weapon. It is very good at what it's good at, which is short range. I think that Call of Duty did a very good job with this particular submachine gun. The reload on the MP5 is very interesting. They got it right in the old Call of Duty, and they kind of just went back on it in this one. I understand you have to make a gun fun in a game, because the MP5 has a lot of weird quirks about it. But with these magazines, when they're fully loaded to 30 rounds, you cannot seat it on a closed bolt. You actually have to lock that bolt to the rear to be able to seat the magazine. So you can seat a magazine if it's loaded down to 29 or 28, depending on how worn the springs are. And you did see some military units do that. But in game, when they're changing mags, you just see them inserting straight full mags into the gun. That's just not realistic. What you actually have to do is, if you want to do a full magazine in there, there is no bolt hold open. So when you fire that last round, you're going to get that click. You're going to have to lock that bolt to the rear, magazine out, fresh magazine in, and then hit that charging handle and get back into it. You have to make a gun balance. I understand it. MP5 has a lot of quirks. Very cool if they included it. Let's continue.
The Dragunov. The SVD.
Jeremy Stone.
Yo,
What do you think about the Dragunov?
it's super cool, and it's even cooler whenever Chris Kyle kills you from a mile away while you're holding one.
Every media connection except for Call of Duty. I like it. What do you think of the SVD?
I mean, I think it's pretty cool. It's one of the nicest DMRs ever come out of Russia.
Have there been any good DMRs that came out of Russia?
Probably just that one.
You've been shot at by this one?
No, thankfully.
Yeah, nice. Not bad. So right here we have the SVD actually using its real name. They did a pretty good job of modeling it in game and showing how it functions. The funny thing about the SVD in game is that you're not really ever taking shots beyond 150 meters with it, and this is a longer range weapon meant to take shots well out to 600. So right here we have the original Russian optic that would go on the SVD, but in the game you're allowed to add a lot of very cool, very advanced optics, so that's what we have on this for right now. But this weapon fires a 7.62. We have right here the 7.62 by 5.4R. It's a rimmed cartridge, and power-wise, you'd say it's closest to like the American 30-06. But today what we'll do is we'll check and see, is it capable of quick scoping in real life, because you never want a hard scope.
Shoot ready, stand by, up.
You know what? I think I could do it in real life. Give me one more.
Stand by,
Yeah.
up.
Not bad. That was about dead center. So you can see the recoil is a little bit more stout on the SVD. The way it's used in game is kind of a move and shoot. That's really not what you're gonna use it for in real life. The recoil is fairly stout on this guy. We got a few more rounds here. We'll go ahead and roast those off. We'll show you guys how the reloads would typically look. Now on the SVD, you do go to bolt lock. So what that would look like is we have the release just like in AK, and then we have a fresh mag right over here. And once you got that in, just like in game, now these are hard to load. You just hit that charging handle and you'd release it. Now a lot of people will look at the SVD and they'll say to themselves, this is clearly an AK. But it is very, very far from an AK, both in terms of the gas system, in terms of the bolt design and how it locks up into the barrel itself, and in how everything is working from trigger and going forward. This is a very, very well-designed weapon. So don't get it confused that it's just an AK sized up. There are a lot of differences. Now, the reason that you have more lug contacts for within the barrel as far as the lockup is to make sure that you have more consistency and accuracy in a semi-automatic platform. This gun is clearly outclassed by most sniper rifles nowadays, and indeed when it came out it was outclassed. However, it is very well designed. John, have you shot this yet?
Never.
All right, let's go, Ranger. Okay, John. Give me 3. All right, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna finish off with our last gun here. Not the most iconic, but very cool looking. This right here is a Mark 13 Mod 5, which is a military rifle that's currently used. The closest thing to this could also be one of the Arctic Warfare Magnum rifles. I guess you could call that the AWP. This is not an AWP, but it looks close because of the stock. But these stocks were used quite a bit. This was a great rifle that they included in game, and it's firing a very, very large round. So right here we have 5.56, which is your typical round fired by your ARs, your M4s, and then we have the 300 Winchester Magnum fired by this guy right here. Now, this guy isn't meant to be fired close. That being said, the game being what it is, it's kind of how it's used. So we'll do a few shots and we'll show you guys what it looks like at far range. Okay, I'm gonna try to quick scope this. All right, hit me, John.
Shooter ready,
Yeah.
stand by, up.
Okay,
Ready? Stand by, up.
okay, give me
Stand
one more.
by, up.
Yeah, that is just not the way it's meant to work. We'll go ahead and fire a little bit further, about 500 with this guy, so you can see what it was actually used for. The 300 Winchester Magnum is a huge round, meant to fire well out to 1,300 meters. We're going to be firing it at about 600 right here. You can see how quickly it's going to impact the metal target out there. You'll hear a nice report when that sound comes back. All right, you can hear how quick that round gets back. As far as impacting the target, that's what makes it such a good sniper rifle. So we've gone through most of the large guns. Let's talk about a few of the backup guns you might be running into, your secondaries, your pistols. The Makarov, the first pistol that you have in the game. In real life, probably one of the most ubiquitous pistols in the world. Fires a 9x18, not a huge round, a little bit less powerful than a 9mm used in NATO weaponry, such as the Beretta M9 and those types of weapons, and a fairly limited capacity of 7 rounds, plus 1 in the chamber. But it is a good pistol. It is still used throughout the military. Now, this particular one is Russian. However, it has Has a little bit of preservative oil known as Cosmoline in the firing pin channel, so it's kind of running so-so. With all that being said, let's fire a few rounds here. Let's see what we get. It's not going to function too well. But suffice to say, as far as how they run the reloads in this guy, it is fairly close to what they have in game. You do have a slide lock. Once you insert that fresh magazine, you can hit that release right there. They do a fairly good job of replicating the minimal recoil that you get from this, as well as the mere size of it. We don't want to use that word, do we? What's so bad about using that? I saw it on a meme. Last and absolutely not least, we have the GS45. In real life, the HK USP 45. An amazing pistol. I love it. We have this one set up similar to what you could have in game from a red dot sight. This one does have a light, but in game you can have lasers on there. This is something that you can actually do to your gun. So this isn't far from reality. Is it far from reality in the 1990s? Absolutely. They did not have that technology at the time. That being said, we're going to show you what it looks like. We do have a 45 right here compared to a 9mm. The 45 is a larger caliber. As far as like the actual wounding capacity, I would say that 9mm and 45 are, from our testing, fairly similar. Let's go ahead and see what that looks like and fire the USP 45. So if you take a look at it, the 45 always makes a very satisfying large hole. Compare that to the 5.56, very accurate, fairly minimal recoil despite being a 45. And with some additions and different unlocks that you have, you can get something that's similar to the HK USP Expert, which is a real gun, and they have a barrel or slide that gives it this aesthetic. Now, in real life, this will actually lessen the recoil. A larger slide allows for more travel, allows for more weight. This is going to help control the gun more. Let's see what that looks like. Now, in the case of ours over there, ours is tuned a little bit more and has a light and an optic on it, which actually makes this one recoil not quite as well. Despite that, these are very fun guns. So that brings us to the end. Here's the thing, guys. There are a lot of cool guns in Call of Duty. And more importantly, it gets to introduce a lot of new people to guns. If you're here because you played Call of Duty and you're like, these guns are cool, great, you get to own these guns. You can shoot these guns, you can have a good time. Shooting them, in my opinion, in real life is way funner than doing it in game. This is how I got my start in guns, was playing video games and seeing how much fun it could be in the game. And I thought, man, in real life, is it just as fun? You're damn right it is. So get out there, actually shoot. If you don't know what you're doing, you can go to any training range in the country and get a lesson, and you can rent the guns. Please do that. We're gonna be very welcoming. If you're coming from the video game world into the firearm world, we can't wait to have you to try out some of these guns. Despite what you may think politically or not politically, it's a good time. So get out there, get some training. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We have tons of great things coming for you. And as always, we got nothing else for you guys. Final thing for you guys, a little bit of dad advice. Times are crazy, but you know what? It's always nice to be nice to people. There's enough hate in the world. So why don't you go ahead and be nice to your neighbor? Say something nice to somebody. Something as nice as a compliment about how nice somebody's hat is will make you feel good. Hey, John.
Hey.
That's a nice hat, man.
Thanks.
John feels great.